and welcome to this week's edition of Speak Spark. I'm Katrina Mitchell, CEO of Franchise Speakers, and we are delighted today to have Meridith Elliott Powell as our special guest. And Meridith, you're going to help us understand today how to really thrive in uncertainty. And you've done a lot of really interesting research. I think I'd just like to kick it off with you telling us how did you decide to become an expert in uncertainty?
Yeah, what a great question, right? I mean, my passion is really helping people, leaders and organizations learn how to turn all of this uncertainty to competitive advantage. But I actually started studying uncertainty more than 2 years ago. I kind of actually became obsessed with the word, how we think about it, how we feel about it, and how we react to it. And the truth is, not a shock, we don't like the word uncertainty. In fact, the research that I found said that we would rather know something bad is going to happen than have to live in an uncertain environment. So Katrina, that means that more often than not, you would rather I show up and tell you how bad 2021 is going to be, rather than tell you that I have no idea what's going to happen. And it just got me thinking, if we're concerned about uncertainty in a good economy, because I was talking to people in 2018 and 2019, then why does uncertainty always have to be a negative? Like, why does it always have to be a bad thing? And that just put me on a mission to help people learn to flip the script on that, to start to think about uncertainty as a positive, because the truth is uncertainty is always with us. And if you don't learn to view it differently, it's actually hindering you in good economic times as much as it is in challenging economic times.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's, well, obviously it's so critical right now, and we're hearing so much about change and adaptation, but you really come at this topic from an entirely different way and from a lot of really interesting research that you've done.
Yeah, it's, I like to say that a lot of speakers can help you learn to react to change or adapt to change. But really what I'm about is is helping you learn to make change work for you. So it's something that your team actually runs towards. But you're right, I have been steeped in the research in this. I actually found 9 companies that have been in business since the late 1700s, early 1800s, and they are still in business thriving today. So that means they've come through world wars, a Great Depression, and oh yeah, they have even come through a pandemic. And from the research and the interviews I did with them, I wrote a 9-step formula for what you need to do to thrive in an uncertain marketplace. And Katrina, the most amazing thing to me is I actually drank my own Kool-Aid, I ate my own dog food, and I applied the strategy to my own business. So it works no matter the size of your organization, no matter who you sell to. It works, it works, it works.
That's great. We're going to share a copy of this, aren't we, Meridith?
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Okay. For how to thrive in uncertainty.
Right. And I have this right here taped up right beside my monitor, my desk, to really remind me of what we're doing every day. So we'll share this with the community as well. And thank you for that gift, Meridith. Really, really outstanding. So let's talk about, can you give us kind of an overview? I know you can't go into all 9 steps, but could we maybe look at 5 or 4? Or...
Sure, absolutely. I'll give you some of my favorites. The thing you have to know, though, at the end of this, I'm going to tell you where you can get all 9 strategies, and you can get them on video so that you don't have to, furiously take notes or anything. But you do need to know that these need to be done in order, and all 9 need to be done. That's really important, because at the end of the book that I'm writing on it, I have a company that actually was going to be highlighted at the beginning. It's Brooks Brothers. And they were a part of the book. And then early in the pandemic, they declared bankruptcy. And they violated 2 of the strategies in the formula. So what I love about this is that I'm not guaranteeing these companies are going to be here forever. But what I am guaranteeing is that if you follow the steps and the strategies, it is the path to thrive in an uncertain marketplace. So let's start with one of my favorites. So one of my favorites is around conditioning yourself for change. And what I mean by that is that here's the thing about change is even the gurus and the experts tell us all the things we need to do to react to change or adapt to change. Now, I want you to think of change like a muscle. And the more you build it, the more you work it, the more you talk about it, the easier change is going to become. Here's the challenge with change. Even the gurus and the experts tell us how to manage change or adapt to it after change shows up. But if you want to thrive in uncertainty, you need to be one step ahead of change. You need to be anticipating the changes that are coming in the marketplace. Because the truth about change is it can be your greatest opportunity if you see it coming. If you ignore it, it's going to bury you. So Katrina, just like every formula, I am big on return on investment. I've got a tool and I've got a strategy that I want you to put into place. So this tool is called a skeptic. And it's just a set of words called society, competition, economics, politics, technology, industry, and customers. I'll repeat it. Society, competition, economics, politics, technology, industry, and customers. And here's all you have to do. Every 30 days, I want you to gather up your team, just brainstorm around these words. What do you see happening with competition? What do you see happening in your industry? What do you see happening with customers? And once you finish that, you ask yourself, what, if any of those changes, do we need to be paying attention to now? And what that does is it gets you thinking about the shifts that are happening in your marketplace, because we are living in a time when there is more happening outside of your company than inside your franchise. And you need to be paying attention to it. The other bonus is it gets your team comfortable with change. Instead of you always having to drive it, they're coming up with the ideas. Hey, we need to think about the fact that our competitors are doing this, or one of our competitors shut down. Maybe there's opportunity for us. They start to drive change rather than you having to drive them.
Yeah, I love that. And especially right now, right? The change is happening so fast. And I certainly, I know in the last 8 months in our industry, we've been changing our, the messages that we're delivering and the things that our franchisors are telling us their franchisees need to hear. I mean, it's literally changing almost weekly. So every 30 days, I almost feel like that would be every 15 days in this marketplace. But
the beauty is what you just said is, I see this happening. You could do this with your franchisors. If you're having a big Zoom meeting, or you can get them together and talk about this. But even if even if you're a franchisee and you're in a smaller business and there's just 2 or 3 of you, you need to do this tool. Yeah. Being one step ahead of those changes is so powerful.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. What's our next one? Your next favorite. Let's say your next favorite.
All right. My next favorite is really about how to grow in an uncertain marketplace, because there is money to be made right now for your franchise. I promise you that. But the trick to making money in an uncertain environment is not about focusing on new business. It's about focusing on your existing business. We call this securing your base. You need to focus on your existing customers for a couple of reasons. Number one is because they are going to remain loyal to you, and they're going to remember who showed up in the middle of an uncertain marketplace. So you need to reach out. You need to check in with them. I'm telling my clients, go back to anybody that you have done business with in the last couple of years. Just reach out, have a conversation. How are you doing? How are things in your industry? What shifts and changes are you seeing? Even if all you're doing is engaging people through a drive-through, ask them questions, because a couple of things are going to happen. Number one is they are going to be even more loyal to you, because people want to be heard. They want to feel like they matter. But beyond that, they are going to give you magic. They are going to give you the exact problems and challenges they are having right now. And that is going to make you relevant. They're going to tell you what they need in this moment, and they're going to give it to you in their language. And the biggest challenge that I see with franchises right now is if you're not growing, it's because you're not relevant. What you sold before COVID can't be what you sell right now. At least the language around it needs to change. I'm going to tell you a quick story from the book that I love this from the research. It's about Procter and Gamble. And Procter and Gamble is one of the companies that I researched. And they started in the early 1800s by two men who married sisters. One sold soap and one sold candles. And they competed for wax. Their future and father-in-law said, boys, why don't you just form a company? And P&G was born. Now, early on, they decided that the only way they were going to grow, the only way they were going to differentiate themselves was to talk to their customers and listen. And one of the first products that they branded was soap. Talk about a commodity. If you can differentiate yourself with soap, you can differentiate yourself with anything. And so they went out and true to form, they did exactly what they said. And before they sold a single bar, they talked to customers. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? What could soap have that would make it better for you? And what they discovered was that people loved soap. But the problem with soap was after you lathered up, you would have to drop the soap to rinse yourself off. And then you would have to feel around in the tub to try to find the soap. And Ivory Soap was born, the first branded product by P&G, and it became the soap that floats. And by the end of the 1800s, Procter & Gamble was $1 million company. Now, I want you to grasp that because the soap that floats is not a brilliant marketing technique. All it is the exact language their customers told us. Please go out and do this. Be relevant in today's marketplace, and I promise you, you're going to grow.
So great. No idea. No idea. I love that story. Thank you.
Yeah, everything. It's what I so love about this topic and doing the research is because it is just story after story after story. And we look at these companies and we just think, number one, the challenges they faced have been unbelievable. But the ingenuity and the simple strategies, every strategy I give you is simple. It's not complex, but it just takes consistency to it and you'll get through it.
Really love and appreciate that. Okay, what's your next favorite?
So my next favorite is the fact that you've got to shed fast and keep moving. You mentioned this at the beginning. I mean, you said wow, I feel like I've gotten a PhD in how to do business since March of this year. And I think about how I did business in March versus how I did business in June versus how I'm doing business now versus what I'll be doing in 2021. You have to shed fast and keep moving. You've got to be really clear about what's working in your franchise, what isn't working, and what you need to be doing that you don't have right now. And I've got another tool for you because I am chock full of tools, but it's called a seeds, a weeds, and a needs. And I suggest to my clients every 2 or 3 months, I just want you to objectively look at your business, objectively look at your franchise and ask yourself, what are we doing that's working? What are the seeds that we have planted that we need to double down on? What do we need to be doing more of? Weeds are what's holding us back, what's choking us. What do we need to get rid of? And needs are, what do we need that we don't have inside the walls of our franchise that will actually take our business to the next level? It's really about understanding that to me, it's the difference between Blockbuster and Netflix. Netflix looked outward and objectively was willing to let go of selling, DVDs because they weren't working anymore. And they looked beyond to the next thing that was coming. And another big mistake that I'm seeing organizations make is what made you successful in the past, but you're so married to it that you're not willing to let it go if it's not working going forward. And I just love this tool because it's simple. And it objectively, you ask yourself, it's not that you did anything wrong. It's that you objectively need to look at the business.
Yeah, I love that. And I also very much appreciate you taught me to be doing this really ongoing. When you say 3 months, but so many small business owners, me included, up until, we created our relationship, I would really do my business planning once a year. and look at my strategies and plan things out. And I love the energy that comes with planning. Personally, it's just very, because I see the hope and the possibility. But I feel like this, this seeds, weeds, needs, doing this regularly, especially right now when we need to be able to quickly course correct if we're not on the right track. The other comment I want to make about that is that as you were speaking, I could really see how this would apply to both franchisees and franchisors. So franchisors from the perspective of the mothership, but franchisees looking at the full toolkit of tools that the franchisors are giving them and saying, well, maybe right now this tool isn't the best tool for me in my market, but this one would work really well. So I can really see this whole application on either side of the equation.
So from the perspective of franchisors, this is such a valuable tool because it's a way to really ask yourself, are we really doing the things that are really adding value in that system? And how could we truly up our game? And then inside the franchisee to be asking ourselves, are we following the system? Are we doing what we need to do? Are there things that we could double down on that have really worked in our market? Again, I can't stress enough that it's not about the fact that anybody's doing anything wrong, because the world's changing outside of you and you need a way to remain objective in order to be successful.
Great. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. What's next? We have a few more minutes.
All right. Okay, I'll give you one that really kind of caught me off guard. And that is that really you need to stop thinking about competing and you need to start thinking about collaborating. In other words, in an uncertain marketplace, competition becomes collaboration. That the challenges you're facing, they're too big for one organization, they're too big for one industry, they're too big for one franchisee. You have to focus on thinking about who you can collaborate with and really ask yourself who has the tools and the strategies that would really help us be more successful in the marketplace. One of my favorite stories from the book, because I did include some newer stories, was the relationship between Aldi grocery stores and McDonald's restaurants right when COVID hit. McDonald's, while they were an essential business, as you know, they were pretty much only allowed to keep their drive-thrus open in most states. And what that meant was they were going to have to furlough employees. These were employees they had trained, they had invested in, and they cared about. And rather than just allow that to happen, they started to think, who could we collaborate with? Enter Aldi grocery stores, who had the opposite problem. They needed to staff up because they were trying to help us all keep toilet paper on our shelves, right? And so they joined a collaborative effort where McDonald's would loan their employees to Aldi grocery stores. Now, Aldi needed employees, but they didn't need employees long term. They just needed it in the short run to get them through this crisis. So they worked together, and Aldi borrowed McDonald's employees, and McDonald was able to keep employees that they had trained and invested in. And as things began to open back up, they were able to bring those employees back on board. So I love the fact that you need to really understand the challenges that you're facing. And it's not that you can't solve them by yourself, but when you start to think big and start to think about who could I collaborate with, it forms these beautiful partnerships that really helps everybody out in the end.
Thank you. Outstanding. That's great. And I hadn't heard that story. So, and being in franchising, I just looking at how much potential is just right here if we open and collaborate on it. Awesome. So do you want to give us another tip, or do you want me to ask my questions? I have a couple of questions.
Go for it and ask me some questions.
Okay. So what are some of the biggest mistakes you're seeing for franchises and other small businesses making right now?
Yeah, I think the biggest is that they're timid when it comes to uncertainty. We're allowing uncertainty to be the perception of negativity. and to really work on that mindset piece of really starting to think about there's opportunity in the marketplace. The thing that I love about and why I'm so passionate about what I speak about, and I hope you've picked it up from this interview, is that there is possibility out there. There is opportunity. And just because we're looking at an uncertain marketplace doesn't mean that it can't be a good thing for you. So to really start to work on that mindset piece and get that foundational piece in there. The other is not taking advantage of some of the opportunity that's out there right now. This has become an employer's market. More and more people are going to be looking for jobs, and you have the opportunity to really build a team around you that is as passionate as you are about growing your organization, really, really being picky. I mean, there's a whole strategy around strengthening your team, but question the expenses you have, question the stabilization of your revenue, question the people that work for you, and raise your standards, because you are in the driver's seat right now, and take advantage of the few things that are working for you.
Yeah, great advice. And I know, excuse me, you cover a lot of that. And excuse me, guys, I have Colorado dry throat, but you cover a lot of that in this great book.
Yes. Who comes next? Leadership Succession Planning Made Easy. You know, Katrina, what's so fascinating about that book is that it's probably different than any succession planning book you've ever read, in the sense that we really talk about building succession at every single level of your organization. This isn't just about somebody in, a leadership role leaving. This is about understanding how you get leadership depth from the people who run the cash register, to the people who sweep the floors, to the people who are doing the budgeting and really running your franchise. It's about building that. And that is so key in an uncertain marketplace. The strength of your team is one of the few things you can control. Take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. So where do we start? Where do franchisees and franchisors start? There's a lot of great information, and we only kind of touched the surface. But how do we begin implementing?
Yeah, number one is one of the strategies I didn't cover, which is really where you need to begin, is you need to have a vision of where you see your franchise when this is over. You have to paint the picture of the success that you see. You've got to understand that most of the people that are working with you and for you are fearful. They're losing hope. They are afraid of this uncertainty. One of the greatest examples I can give of it is Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech. And the power of that speech is that he took people who were going through one of the biggest challenges of their lives, the civil rights movement, and they didn't know if they could even make a difference. And it would be 2 steps forward, 3 or 4 steps back. But in that speech, he painted the world as to how he saw it and gave people vision and hope and belief. And if you are the leader, you have got to do that with people. That strategy right there is where you begin, because it's the foundation, and it's going to begin to change everything. You need to really have people focused on where they're going, not focuses on the challenges in front of them. They hit a challenge, they're going to get stuck. But if you can paint a future, they're going to go there with you.
So both for franchisees and franchisors, whether the franchisor is looking and how to lead the franchisees in the entire franchise system, or franchisees are leading their own internal teams.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It needs to be done at every level. The franchisors, you have got to paint that picture. You've got to help them. I don't care what the industry is, you have to help people see why they're essential and why the franchise really matters, and the difference that it's making, and where it's going to be when this is over. But absolutely, if you're running the franchise down the street from me and you've got 3 people in there with you, still have a vision and a dream, and paint that picture. I'm a strategic planner by training. That's my whole background. And one of the most fascinating things is that less than 2% of the population is visionary. 12% are strategic thinkers, and the rest are tactical. And what that means is most people who are working with you really only look in front of their face. That's the farthest they can see. And if you don't come out and paint the picture for them, they're not going to get past the obstacles that this environment is creating.
I love that. Really great. And I didn't know that. I didn't know. And how about for those people who are both visionary and tactical, as like a lot of small business owners, really,
Oh, yes. Yes. And and that would be something that I would want both the franchisors and the franchisees to understand, is that most people, if you are the leader, you're probably visionary or strategic. Chances are you are. You've got to understand that most people who work with you are tactical. So what you see, they don't see, and you've got to articulate it and create it. And again, I just keep going back to Martin Luther King Jr. and what he did with that speech was helped people see why what they were doing mattered.
Nice.
And if I'm coming to work every day, if I'm having to accept less of a salary, if, I got furloughed and now I'm back and I don't know if I'm going to be furloughed again, you have to help me see why I need to continue to care. And if you just do that strategy, you're going to start to see the energy level of your teams change. But I still want you to do the other 8 strategies coming behind.
That's great. That's great. Good. Well, let's just talk a little bit about how we can, how people can learn more, dive in more deeply. We're going to share the quick start strategy to uncertainty. Also, you have some videos, Meridith.
Yeah.
Would you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, if you hit my website, which is just valuespeaker.com, the words valuespeaker.com, you will see a purple bar at the top called Emerge Successful. All you have to do is click on that bar, and it is chock full of free tools and resources of everything that you need to know from sales, leadership, employee engagement, and all 9 steps of the strategy captured on video. And it's just there, free to take, free to enjoy. I always tell people too, if you don't see something there, don't hesitate to reach out and ask me. I'm trying to be relevant as well. So understanding what's on your mind understands how I need to shift my business to be successful.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for your open-hearted kindness and you from the very beginning. I remember you and I spoke very early on in the pandemic, and you were like, yeah, absolutely here to help. I'll do this. I'll do that. You've been one of our team members that went in and helped address franchise systems that were really, really struggling and kind of give their franchisees a boost. And we just so appreciate everything you do. And I can just tell our community that any franchisor client that has hired Meridith to come address their franchisees, whether live or virtual, has been absolutely ecstatic with the experience and the results. You are first class in every way, from your pre-program work to your delivery, whether that's live or virtual. And we're just so blessed and so grateful to have the chance to partner with you, Meridith, and just look forward to doing that for many, many more years.
Well, thank you. I feel that I feel the same way about you. I think we are the definition of collaboration, and I have such a passion and a heart for franchisors and franchisees, and I'm passionate about the fact that I know that these strategies work. You're essential to your communities and essential to the very fabric of this company. And I certainly want to do everything that I can do to help you really emerge successful and learn to turn uncertainty to competitive advantage.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time, Meridith. If anyone has any questions, either reach out to Meridith or reach out to us at Speak, and we'll make sure that Meridith gets that information. Thank you.
Thank you.